The Obama campaign now. David Axelrod here with us this morning. Thanks for coming in.
Great to be here.
You heard Chairman Priebus right there last week, a defining week for the campaign, a good week for the Republican campaign.
Well, I don't know what prism he's looking through. I don't think anybody else would define it as a good week, but it was an enlightening week. The week began with Governor Romney basically slandering 47% of America, saying that they were, hooked on dependency, didn't pay their taxes, and so on. And at the end of the week, we saw him manipulating his own tax returns to try and plump up his portion of taxes to 14%.
You're talking about not taking the charitable deduction.
Right. 2 months ago on your own air, he said that anybody who didn't take the deductions they were owed wasn't qualified to be president. Well, I guess he's not qualified because that's exactly what he did last week to try and get his number up from 9 or 10% to 14%. It's fair to say that a lot of those 47% that he was slandering earlier in the week probably pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes overall than he does.
But do you really think there's any more juice left in this issue?
Well, look, I think that it is important that, we did learn some things from these tax returns in addition to the rate he paid. We understood that the guy who goes around America saying he's going to bash China, invested in the Chinese oil state oil company. The guy who says, let's believe in America, put his money in a fund that hedges against American treasuries, roots for failure of the American treasuries. So, we learned some things, but he still hasn't disclosed any years before 2010. His father was the one who set the standard, 12 years. And you know why? He said, you put out 1 or 2 years, you can manipulate them to give false impressions. So the question for people is why? But George, the bigger issue isn't that he isn't being straight about his own taxes. The bigger issue is that he isn't being straight about what he's going to do to everyone else's taxes. You heard Chairman Priebus say we have specifics coming out of our eyeballs. I don't think anybody else has seen those specifics. $5 trillion tax cut Governor Romney has proposed. No specifics on how he would pay for that tax cut. $2 trillion in new defense spending. No specifics on how he would pay for that. He's either going to explode the deficit, sock it to the middle class, or both.
At the same time, the economy, as you know, still struggling. We also learned this week that unemployment rose or remained the same in 38 states last month. Huge problem for the president.
Well, look, the country's come through a difficult time, George. We know that. We've had this discussion before. We've come a long way from when we were losing 800,000 jobs a month. We've had 30 straight months of job growth, but this is an ongoing project. The question is for the country right now, is the answer to go back to trickle-down economics, a $5 trillion unpaid tax cut skewed to the wealthy, deregulation of Wall Street, the same script we played through in the last decade, or are we going to keep moving forward and doing the things we need to rebuild this economy and rebuild the middle class?
The Romney campaign going to do everything it can to remind people of what they say are Obama's failures, President Obama's failures. A new ad out this morning based on this book, looking back at the debt limit crisis last year, Bob Woodward's book. Here's the ad.
During stimulus negotiations, President Obama called his Democratic leadership team, Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, and as President Obama spoke, Nancy Pelosi hit the mute button, went on with their meeting, ignoring the president, not even listening to what he had to say. If he cannot lead his own party, how can he lead America?
Their point, President Obama's failed the test of leadership.
Well, first of all, Nancy Pelosi has denied that incident, but the larger point is
the
larger point is this, George. I read today that the Romney campaign said they're going to double down on their attacks on the president. I don't think the problem has been that they haven't attacked the president enough. It's not about them tearing down the president. They simply haven't offered ideas about how they're going to lift up the country. And until they do that, I think the American people are going to continue to reject him. The most interesting poll in the last week came from the state of Massachusetts, where Governor Romney, the state he governed just 6 years ago, is 33 points behind. You're a student of history. No one has ever won the presidency without carrying their home state. What a harsh judgment from the people who know him best.
One final question. You talk about the polls. How do you explain the fact that in the Gallup poll, it still shows a tied race after all this?
Well, look, we've always said it was going to be a close race. Structurally, the way the politics of our country are set up, we knew it was going to be a close race. We're prepared for a close race. I'm not going to get into the nuances of individual polls. Some have us much farther ahead. Some have us more narrowly ahead. But we're prepared for a close race, and we're going to work every hour of every day until November 6th, because, as Chairman Priebus said, there is a lot at stake about the kind of future we're going to have.
David Axelrod, thanks for coming in this morning.
Great to be with you.